Hi, this is Mike, WB4HUC, and this is going to be a short video just talking about two of the software packages that I use with my SDR Play RSP1 receivers. I have an RSP1 and an RSP1A, and when I first put an SDR receiver on the Omni 7 to use as a Panadapter, it was the SoftRock Ensemble 2, and that fed the signals out to the computer sound card, and I used HDSDR with that receiver, and it worked fine. It gave me the Panadapter, the RF spectrum window. It gave you the smaller sort of audio spectrum window, if you want to call it that, and all of the controls to operate the receiver, and it worked fine. And when I switched from that receiver to the SDR Play RSP1 a few years ago, I continued to use HDSDR. So, and then on a whim, I got to looking at SDR Play's website, and they had their SDRUno software out there. So I downloaded that and started playing with it. And there's quite a learning curve. You can see that things are in these separate little windows, and most of them have their own settings controls and multiple tabs in their own settings controls. So to sort of get the hang of this, you got to spend some time with it, and there is a bit of a learning curve, more so than with HDSDR. But once you figure it all out, then you gain access to specific features of those receivers that HDSDR doesn't let you get to. So, and this main control panel here will look differently depending on which receiver you're using. So I'm using right now the RSP1A, and you see this is how the control panel looks. For the RSP1, it's a little bit different, and I'm sure for the RSP2, now the RSP2 Duo is probably also different. So the control panel will be unique to each receiver as well, which you don't get with HDSDR. So that's one reason that I switched to SDRUno and for these receivers, for these RSP receivers. And then the other reason is just to reduce the amount of screen space that the Panadapter takes up. So what you're seeing here is about 2/3 of my entire screen. I think it's a 27-inch monitor, but I've reduced the capture area for this video to about 2/3 of that. So there's a whole, there's more space over to the left over here that you're just not seeing. But if you have one monitor, regardless of how big it is, and you simply want to get to be able to see as many things on that monitor as you can, of course, you want each one to take up the least amount of space that it can take up. So with SDRUno, I can close that window, I can close that window, I can minimize this one. You can't close this one or it shuts the software down, but you can minimize it, and now all you have left is the Panadapter display. Or you can change it to waterfall, or you can show both, or you can sort of combine them, superimpose the waterfall over the spectrum display. I generally just stick with the spectrum display. And if you want to even reduce this a little bit more, I'm one of these people that like to line everything up. So if and I generally like to show the settings window in N4PY, but if I don't, I can close the settings window, I can reduce this, I can come up here and I can reduce this, and now this is all you see. So I've reduced the screen space that these two programs occupy, even a little bit more. So if we close this one and we bring up HDSDR, so just line these two back up again for whatever reason. Well, there you go. So you've got the RF spectrum window, the sort of audio spectrum window here, and your controls, and they're all visible, and you can't show just one of these. You have to see them all. So again, this software works fine. There's not a thing in the world wrong with it. Just for my purposes, to try to minimize the amount of screen space that each of these things takes, I decided to switch to SDRUno, and I use HDSDR from time to time, but mostly I use SDRUno. And mostly because I'm trying to display several things on the screen at once, and I just want each one to take up the least amount of space possible. So that's it. Just a real short video here to explain why I choose one over the other, and maybe you find that interesting, maybe not. But in either case, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.